they used to have a Black History program. A lot of schools used to have when they started Black History, the month of February, they would have Black History. And she called me and she said, I want you to come be my Black History speaker. And I said, oh no, I'm not there. I had never set foot back on that campus since the day I graduated.
Wow.
That's how much I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, oh no, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And she begged me, and of course, I gave in.
Mm-hmm.
And I never forget, I was giving the speech, and I saw this lady make her way to the stage. And she was talking to my sister, and she came to the mic, and she said, my name is Susan Parker. And that's her real name, Susan Parker.
Okay.
She's passed away from cancer now.
Okay.
But she said, she called me Robertiena. That's what a lot of them. Robertiena may not remember me, but I was in her class of 67. And she said, I was not one of the ones that hit her, said cruel things to her. But I was just as guilty because what I did was stood by and watched it and did not say a word. And today, I would like to hold her hand and sing our alma mater. And by the time she finished with that, tears were coming down my eyes, her eyes, and the whole gym was up in applause. And that began the healing process for me.
Welcome to the Americus Podcast, where we're learning what it means to become a next level neighbor, creating a place we enjoy with the people we love. Today, I am joined by Tiena Fletcher. Tiena is a retired director of pharmacy services for the Houston Healthcare in Warner Robins and currently lives in Perry. Tiena, it's great to be sitting down with you. Thanks for coming on the podcast with us.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm happy to be here.
I have read stories and articles about you. I got a chance to sit down with your sister actually on the podcast as well. There are many times where when we're talking about the history of Americus, your name is there. And so just know that people love you. They value you here. I'm grateful for your story. I can't wait for other people that may have not heard your story to be able to hear that on the podcast. And if so, this will just remind them of where we want to go as a community. So thank you for that. So now being retired, I would love to hear just really quickly, what are you doing? Do you miss the work life? And what are some things that you're looking forward to?
Well, I retired in 2019.
Okay.
As a full-time pharmacist, as director of pharmacy for Houston Healthcare Complex or healthcare system, which included Warner Robins and Perry. And then I worked PRN on a program for them, 340B program, that I implemented in the hospital, and they needed someone to work on it. So I gave that hospital 42 years.
Wow.
But when I retired, I retired.
Yeah.
But not in the sense that I'm not doing anything. In fact, when I was working, I look back on all the things that I continued to do, and I wonder, when did I have time to work?
Yeah.
Because I'm truly, truly busy. Even today, I have things that I am doing. I am chairman of the Department of Human Services for the state of Georgia.
Wow.
I have a governor's appointment. I have served on that board. Sonny Perdue was the first governor that appointed me.
Okay.
But each commissioner after that has asked that I stay. And so I've gone through several governors.
Wow.
Now. I have started serving on that board in 2005.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I started my chairmanship in 2009, and I still am to this day chairman of that board.
Okay, wow.
So I do that wanting to help out because that board now, as it has been restructured, we develop policies and approve budgets for the aging, child support, and Family and Children's Services, DFACS. Those
That's
are the
great.
three agencies that are under that umbrella. But I'm also working my church. Mm-hmm. I have a ministry, support care, a caregivers ministry that I'm a part of. I work in my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Yeah. I was president from 2018 to 2021.
Okay.
I work in the Fort Valley chapter of the Lynx, and I carried a 4-year presidency of that group. And we do a lot of community service and a lot of work. I don't know if people, a lot of people know as much about the Lynx as they do Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And I work on some community groups, such as the Community Foundation of Georgia. I've worked on hospice boards. I've worked on the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
I've worked on just anywhere and I'll tell you the reason why I feel like it's important for citizens to really engage and immerse themselves in the community is because we need that seat at the table.
Yeah.
So many times we react to things that have happened than being at the table when the decisions are being made.
Wow.
And my dad fundamentally believed in that. And I do, and my sister does. That's just something we do.
Yes.
And so if I see something that piques my interest, I'm going to become engaged.
Yeah. And I think that that's great. And I would ask you, when you wanted to engage in those environments, did you feel welcomed? Obviously, you got on these boards and things. So the idea is we don't think that our voice necessarily might not be heard, but the reality is that the more we engage, the more opportunities we're going to have. I mean, would you agree with that?
I will agree with that because that's exactly what happened. I was the first chairman of the board for Family and Family Connections for Houston County. The chairman of the county commissioners knew me from serving on another board, and he came to me and he said, I'd like for you to do this.
Yes.
And so when you make your voice heard, if you go even in small circles, people listen.
Yeah.
And especially if you truly have something to say, not just trying to browbeat people or tear structure down, but you really honestly want to come in and provide your perspective on how things should go or what should happen.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we need more of that, and I would agree with you. There are a couple people that you meet in life, and they just kind of have that mentality that's like, I wish these things would change. I wish these things would change. You would be so surprised if you could just take them and say, hey, why don't you join up with this particular board, or just reach out, let someone know, and you do it with humility, right? You can't just show up and just say, do what I say.
That's right.
But I really have a heart for this. People see that heart and that value, and they want to bring you to the table. So,
and then they see another perspective. We all are different. We grew up different. We have different values, and who's to say any one of us are wrong? But you bring it to the table. I never forget being on the Board of Education, and I distinctly remember when we had these student councils. A lot of times they want to say, put them out of school. We have a zero tolerance for this. We have whatever. And I said, but look, these are 4th and 5th grade students. We got to find another avenue or way to solve some of these problems with these students rather than saying, one little child brought a little knife that came with a Marlboro cigarette into school, and she had thought it was just whatever. And they would say, she had a weapon. We need to put her out of school. And when you voice that, eventually, I won't go through the whole detail of what happened because it was kind of evolved. But eventually, we got the rule changed. But when I talked to one of my friends on that board, the Board of Education. I was an elected official. I was on the Board of Education in Houston County.
Yeah.
And when I talked to her, Shirley Lowry, she don't mind, I call her name, we are good friends. And she looked at me one day and she said, but Tiena, you're different. And I said, Shirley, I'm not different. The color of my skin is the same. My perspective is different than yours.
Yeah.
And that we got to come together and decide the best solution for our students.
Yeah.
But don't look at me just because you become my friend and you like me, and I love her.
Yeah.
I love Shirley Lyra and her to death.
Yeah.
Don't look at me and say, but you're different. I'm no different.
Yeah. That's good. Well, it doesn't sound, I mean, it might sound that you're retired as far as a functional job, but you are hard at work in your life, and that's really, really amazing. You have a husband, his name is Donnie, correct? And
That
3
is
children.
correct.
So do you get a chance to see your children and get to hang out because you have a little bit of maybe
We
some
do.
extra?
One child lives with me.
Okay.
You know how
Yeah.
they come back sometimes. But, and one is in Germany.
Okay.
He moved about over a year ago, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he loved it. He's young
Yeah.
enough that if he's going to experience it and move to another country, hey,
Yeah.
this is the time to do it. You
Yeah.
know?
Do you have
So,
any plans to go over and see him in his place?
We do. In September, we're taking a trip to Germany.
That's great. It's a great
Right.
place. I was born in Germany. I was part of a military family, so stayed there for about 8 years. So it's a great place. Good,
Oh, wow.
Good culture.
Hopefully we'll see some of the things there. But then anyway, and then I have a daughter who was my firstborn and really my only child that I had naturally. And she lives in Atlanta, and
Okay.
she was down for Mother's Day, so it's quick, so we see them. I will tell you, my 2 boys are adopted,
Okay.
intentionally adopted.
Wow.
Somewhere back, this theory came out about what was happening to our black boys, and I asked DFACS when I went to apply. My husband and I,
Okay.
we wanted boys.
Wow. Was this when you were in Perry, Warner Robins, or were you?
I was in Warner Robins when I got both of them. Tell you the truth, I moved to Perry since then when we built a home and bought some land and built a home in Perry, but. They are good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What's it like to go through that adoption process?
Back then, you had to attend all these classes, and I think you still have to be certified as adoptable parents. But I remember my caseworker, Judy, said, "Tiena, I'll put just as many kids as you want in your house." In your
That's a
home.
good-
Hey, I said, hey, I
You're like,
can't
wait a
take
minute
it.
now.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, one of the greatest blessings you can receive in your life, and I got just hundreds of stories. I need to write a book and keep saying I'm going to do that, and I don't. But one of the greatest blessings, or one of the things that mean the most to me in my life, is when I touch the lives of another individual.
Yeah.
That outweighs any act, anything. But if you can touch somebody's life
Yeah.
and make it better, that is what means most to me.
Yeah. You definitely need to write those stories out.
Yes.
Definitely. That would be amazing. I am sure. I'm sure that you could write several books. So, just start with one and just continue to do that. So, well, that kind of leads us into a lot of your story. So I have been reading again about you in the 60s, a lot of civil rights movement, a lot of things going on. A lot of people, when they think about, civil rights, they might think about Alabama, they might think about, Mississippi. But Americus, Georgia is a huge part of that. And you are a part of that. And so I'd love to hear just a little bit of that story. And here's how I'll ask it. When was the moment in your life where you knew that you could no longer just sit back and stand down and knew that you had to engage in this movement?
Well, I'm going to tell you, like I've said before to some others that I've interviewed with, I look back on my life and I realize the impact of the things that we have done. But at the moment that I was doing them, at that age, 12 and 13, I had no clue.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay? I knew, I began to realize some things in my life, such as my mother would take me to the doctor, and I was wondering why we had to go out to the back of the building and go to a room and sit there before we would see him. Or she'd take me to buy shoes, and if a white person came in, they would stop waiting on us and wait on the white person, then come back to us. And it was a separate section. And I used to ask her those questions. She said, that's just the way it is, baby. That's just the way it is. And so I realized those things, and I understood at that age when the mass meeting started and all of this, that there were some injustices that we as a people were being treated unfairly. I can remember my daddy, as you know, talking to other elders, Miss Barnum and Reverend Campbell and some of the others, and just listening in, and I could understand what they were saying, but the real impact of it, I don't think I was really realizing it. And I went to the mass meeting, and as a people, as a spiritual, and I accepted Christ at a very young age and knew what I was doing now, because I really believed. But we would go to these mass meetings, and the singing and everything would be so powerful. When they get in that church and start bellowing out, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, and just over and over again, you get caught up in the moment. And they're going out to church to march. And one of the compelling factors was me, that my sister had already gotten locked up.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, you know. And so I marched. I left Bethesda Baptist Church. She marched from Friendship.
Okay.
I left Bethesda Baptist Church, marched downtown, and by the time we got 2 blocks, we were met with police force.
Yes.
And thrown in the paddy wagons and taken off to jail.
Wow.
But I knew that I wanted to go. My friends were going. We were filling up the jails in Americus.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like everybody doing it.
Yeah. So you were a part of that, and do you remember any particular, maybe a message or a phrase or maybe even just a scripture that kind of led some of those that were just really inspiring, or that you just remembered and said, yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that's truth. We're just going to kind of walk out in light of those things. Because like you said, they're spiritual meetings, and so it's just like,
that's right.
Okay, what is the scripture saying that leads us to go out and do these things and be a part of this movement?
Well, it was scriptures, but I'm going to tell you, for me, it was they did a lot of singing and a lot of praying.
Yeah.
The deacons would get down on their knees and just bellow a prayer. And then we'd sing. And it was those songs that really, really got to me, because I really believed in the words. You're not going to let nobody turn you around. You're going to keep on walking. You keep on walking up the King's Highway. You know, this is what we felt like God was leading us to do.
So you have that, right? That's an emotional response too, of like, I want to be a part of this. We're all walking out 2 blocks later.
That's right.
The police show up.
That's right.
Things get real. How are you experiencing that? How do you continue to stay in that state that says, I'm not turning around, you know?
Well, you don't have a choice. I mean, they threw you in the back of this paddy wagon, closed the door, it's dark, and some kids, girls started crying. They separated us out. The boys went one way and the girls went another way, and they took us down to the city jail, and at that time they had a makeshift city jail in one of the buildings downtown.
Because there were so many, and
there were so many. It just kept coming, and so they were housing us in nearby counties because we were filling up. I mean, it was overwhelming. Americus was one hot seat. I mean, it was, and the stuff had been going on at Conania. My daddy was good friends with the people out there, and it was just so much happening. Till you know, you just felt compelled to march. I can remember all my friends, you know, Pearl Brown and all those that were in. And they were already in the stockade when we got there.
Okay.
There were some people already there.
Yeah.
And they just kept adding to that stockade.
And this is the stockade where the 33 right? Stockade.
That's
you were
right.
a part of that.
That's right.
And so it was a particular march. Do you remember what that time was, that particular march that caused that for you personally? Like, is that the one you're referring to right now?
That's the one I'm referring to right now.
Okay.
And when I went downtown and we stayed overnight in fact, I think we stayed 2 nights in the city jail. And then that's when I reconnected with my sister.
Okay.
That's when somebody said, Juanita, your sister's here. And we realized we were, and they loaded us up that next morning. And all of us then took us down to the Leesburg Stockade, where there were already some girls already there incarcerated. And we were at it with them. And that's when we started experiencing that horrible experience.
Yeah.
Sleeping on the cement floors and
the toilet wasn't
working, or stopped working anyway. By the time all of us were trying to use it, and just stopped fit. And people say, well, what is the thing that you most remember about that? And I tell them, I still remember the stench from the toilet. It was horrible. And we would give them 4 hamburgers a day. They give it to you all at one time.
Wow.
And if you ate them all, the little crystal burger, it was gone. And they call them White Castle, I think. That's what it was at that time back down there. It wasn't crystal. And it was a very, very difficult time. I never forget the day that they came and called my sister and my name, her name, Carolyn DeLoach, the principal's daughter's name, and several others that they were getting out. And because I think they feared for their jobs with the Board of Education.
Wow, yeah.
Because their children were locked up. And so they got us out. And they thought that was going, because a lot of the kids that didn't go to jail, because, everybody didn't go.
Yeah.
They were boycotting schools. They were boycotting schools. They thought that getting us out would help lead some of the other kids back to school. It didn't happen.
It did not, no.
Didn't happen.
So did that experience make you less likely to try again, or did that just continue to fuel you to say, no, I don't know exactly what we're doing, like you mentioned, but I'm here, I'm going to keep doing it. Did you give it more resolve to continue to go forward, or?
Well, that next year was when we started, the SNCC fellas came around, they were canvassing the city.
Okay.
And they wanted to know if I would be interested in going from the black school, transferring to Americus High.
Okay, yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me about that first conversation. So someone knocked on your door, or?
I never forget, I was sitting out on my porch, and they were going to different houses where people were, and they were coming down Forest Street, and they said, hey, we would like to talk to you. And I said, my dad wasn't even home.
Wow.
And they said, I never forget, I was sitting out there, and he said, would you be interested? And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, I'd like to go. I'm going to be honest with you. What made me say that, I could not tell you to this day.
Wow.
But for some reason, in my mind, I did not realize it was going to be like it was.
Okay.
I had no idea. I thought if they got to know me, I'm a nice person. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Because I have some white friends. I do this and I'll do that, Oh, my God, was I ever wrong?
Wow. So when your dad got home and you told him, said, hey, they have this idea, I'm thinking about it, what was his response? His response
is, let's sit down and talk about it. Are you sure you want to do this? And I told him, I want to do it.
Did he see that as a benefit for the movement as well? If you feel called to do it, then this is something that we see too. Or did your family go, I don't think you should do this?
No. Okay. My dad always supported anything that was worthwhile, he thought, or what courageous or anything that we should do. Anything that was out there that was going to be for the good. Let me tell you something. He was always supporting us. Yes. Whatever it is,
Okay.
And
what did Juanita think about that?
She told me I was crazy. And I won't say how she said it, but and she's like, we real close. We've always been really close. She said, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I don't know what. You go to Sunday school and you go to church and you sing these songs. Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus loved the little children of the world. And you believe it. Yeah. But reality then sets in. And that's when I really started feeling. That's when we'd gone to jail.
Yeah.
We'd gone through that horrible situation, but other girls was with us. But when we went over to the high school, there was 4 of us: Dobbs, Wiggin, Minnie, Wise, and myself were the first 3.
And that was in August of, what is it,
64.
64.
And David Bell, he didn't start the first day, but he came over like another week afterwards.
Okay. So take me through that first day. So,
oh, God. I thought I was going to die. So
you wake up in the morning. I mean, what's going on?
We get dressed and...
Are you nervous? Are you excited?
Well, I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I just didn't know. And they put us in one car and drove us there. And we rode out to the campus, and as far as your eyes could see were white people. Moms, dads, students. I mean, they just covered the campus. Bricks started hitting the car. I thought, I said, oh, we're going to die today.
Wow.
We are literally going to... That's literally what I thought. And finally, one of the sheriffs or policemen hit the car and said, go this route and go to the back of the school where the principal's office is. And there had been a fire at the school, so the principal's office was in a trailer.
Okay.
In the back. And they sped off and they took us and they set us down in that building, in his office. And he finally came in and started talking to us about how the day was going to be. But that year probably was the loneliest year of my life.
Loneliest. Explain. Yeah, share a little bit about that.
The others were in 11th grade. I was in 10th grade. So we saw each other here and there. Lunch periods different. Nobody to talk to. You're in classes by yourself. You get all these slurs. Some teachers would turn their head. They would hear it. Some teachers would. I remember Coach Hightower would tell them, listen, I'm not having this mess in my class. So you're going to either straighten up and do right or get out. So he would kind of be forceful. Not saying that he felt for us, but he at least wanted to do right. But you went to lunch by yourself. You did everything from the day that you came to school until to the hour that you were dropped off at school, to the time that you left, and then we used to meet outside, Minnie and I, and walk up the street.
That's right.
together.
And you had mentioned earlier that you get the last period.
Study hall.
The study hall, you guys would leave during study hall time, right?
Right.
As far as even a part of your protection, in a sense of being able to leave the school before everyone else got there.
That's right.
Parents got there and
That's right.
started stirring things up again.
That's right.
So
that's what we would do. And I didn't live but 2 blocks from Americus High. I mean, I'd go up the street and cross the railroad track and bam, that was my house far as the street.
Did you ever have a moment or moments where you said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't believe this is going to be good?
I'm stubborn. And I think the more they did to me, the more steadfast, the harder I became, and the more I wanted to stay and prove to them that better than I am. And the lesson came easy to me. I don't know why. I studied now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I didn't have to study. In fact, the next year, when more blacks came over, I used to do a math tutorial with the other black students to help them pass their classes. Because I understood algebra, geometry.
Wow.
I'm a science person.
Yeah.
I'm a science and math person. That's why I ended up in pharmacy. I mean,
That's right.
And theorems and all that stuff, I get.
Yeah. So you just got in those classes, started excelling, started taking ownership and just passing these and just, again, socially, but also educationally, just kept raising the bar.
That's right.
And they just didn't know what to do. Were there additional times where the school or maybe the education or would try to slow you down other than just common threats before and after school?
The teachers didn't do that. Okay. If you got their work, they gave you the grade.
Okay.
You get your paper back or whatever. I remember Miss Crabb, our English teacher, the first grade I got from her was a C+, and I said, I won't get that again. And English is not my fortitude. And I was at Mercer, I spent all night on an English paper.
Yeah.
I go to sleep on a chemistry test. I'm just saying, that's just the way my brain works. Those double negatives and this and that. All this. But I found that a lot of the teachers really were fair. They didn't take grades from me. I used to keep a record of my grades in my book, and fairly, they pretty much gave me the grades that I made. Yeah. And so it wasn't that, but it was...
Were there any external factors that tried to slow you down?
Well, they even... no, because they even... other than the students knocking on you against the lockers and hitting on you, spitting on you, spitballs. I got so much of that. I mean, you reach up and all this spit was, coming off your hair or your, face and name calling and that was the thing that really, was bad. Wow. And I guess they thought that the physical abuse was going to affect you so much mentally that you would just turn around. But it had the opposite effect on me. Yeah. But I tell you, I didn't like the school. I graduated. I didn't like it. My sister became principal of the exact school.
That's amazing.
And she had me, they used to have a Black History program. A lot of schools used to have when they started Black History in the month of February, they would have Black History. And she called me and she said, I want you to come be my Black History speaker. And I said, oh no, I'm not there. I had never set foot back on that campus since the day I graduated. Wow. That's how much I hated it. But I said, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And she begged me, and of course, I gave in. And I never forget, I was giving the speech, and I saw this lady make her way to the stage. And she was talking to my sister, and she came to the mic, and she said, my name is Susan Parker. And that's her real name, Susan Parker. She's passed away from cancer now. Okay. But she said, she called me Robertiena. That's what a lot of Robertiena may not remember me, but I was in her class of 67. And she said, I was not one of the ones that hit her, said cruel things to her, But I was just as guilty because what I did was stood by and watched it and did not say a word. And today, I would like to hold her hand and sing our alma mater. And by the time she finished with that, tears were coming down my eyes, her eyes, and the whole gym was up in applause. And that began the healing process for me.
Wow.
That first apology
Yeah.
that I got from anybody at that school for what we endured during the time they were there. And since then, several other people have written me letters, and I have the letters daily. Mary Daly, she lives in Ohio now, and I hadn't talked to her in several years. But there are several others, and these I was going to put in as a part of the book.
Yeah.
But though they have helped me here.
Yes.
Greg Whitcamper in the book, The Class of 65.
Yeah, I read that book.
And I'm in there, and his encouragement, and I know it's just several things have helped me to come to terms with the school, the place, what happened. And as I grow and do other things in life now, get further and further away from that, I understand that God has placed me in positions to be able to do this work.
Yeah.
And it was up for me to fulfill it, to go through it.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we have placed our mark in history. However, look, the people in Birmingham do the same thing. I feel like the movement in Americus, we were foot soldiers to the Martin Luther King dream. We were just part of what it took for us to get where we are now. And we are far removed from that.
Yeah.
We have made progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are not where we
Progress. Give some examples, because it's so helpful to be able to see, because what like you said, what has taken place, and like you said, you were there and you didn't know exactly how it would impact or what this was, but here you are now. I mean, just share some of those things, some of the things that get you really excited and celebrating all the things that you had to experience to see where you're at now.
Well, now, as I am placed in positions to move forward and lead, I do it. I accept the challenge.
Yeah.
I accept the challenges because I look back at the struggle we went through, the things that we did. I marvel at the fact that we marched at age 12, 13, and 14 and filled these jails, went through the Leesburg stockade, that in my 10th grade year, I was locked up on a fornication charge, because I was out with my boyfriend, Alex Brown, and the things that we endured help strengthen you and prepare you to be able to lead in life and do other things.
Yes.
With wisdom and grace.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I think too that those conversations that you're having now and those letters, I'm so glad to see that, because part of that is that reconciliation for you too, just to be able to reconcile those experiences with it made an impact now, and you are on the right side of history. And
okay. Even though I know that there are a lot that have looked back and they see what was wrong and what they did wrong or whatever, some of it's still there.
Yeah, explain.
Be fair to. I was talking to Greg Whitcamper, and he called me one day, and he said, Tiena, they were having an all-class reunion at Americus High. He said, did you get an invitation to the class reunion? I said, no, I didn't get one. He said, well, I'm not going there. If they don't, I'm going to write and tell them if they don't invite you. They invited him. Now, Greg was from Conneaut Farm.
That's right.
They used to beat him every day. And he'd get up and turn a cheek, and they knock him down again. And just because they associated with blacks in town. Connersville was a community.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, one of the guys at the bank that in Perry, Georgia, that came and apologized to him said he was a Sunday school lesson. Kind of thing that he learned of the boy in Sunday school about turning the other cheek.
He was doing it.
Greg was doing it.
Wow.
So, there are people that still, why, if they had a class reunion, I don't know if I would have gone with what I was doing, why wouldn't they have invited me? But they did. So there's still some of that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it seems to me that those moments, you'd mentioned the word before, even before the podcast, that there's some genuine scars. I mean, there's some real things that we need to constantly. And I remember a good pastor friend of mine, Tim Bice, he got in a really bad accident, and he has a scar on his neck. And he said that at times he would see it, in the mirror, fixing his hair. And he goes, the scar reminds me that I'm still here. I'm not dead. It didn't kill me.
That's right.
But I'm here.
That's positive.
Yeah, and it's just a reminder of, like you said, in God's sovereignty and control, said, I want to use this woman to do great things, but she has to go through this thing to prepare her for what that is.
That's right.
And so even during that, okay, so you're coming home. Let's spend a little bit more time on that part of your story. So you're coming home, and you're having all these experiences. What is your family? What are your friends saying? What's your church saying? Are they saying, leave, get out of there? Or are they cheering you on? Or are they just pulling their hair out going, what are you doing? Why do you keep going back?
Why am I keep going back to Americus High?
Your friends, your family, or are they just...
They cheering me on.
Cheering you on?
Especially since I was doing well in school.
Yeah.
That's the part that my dad was really excited about. But I used to tell him all the time, I got my lesson when I went to Staley.
Yeah.
So why shouldn't I get my lesson now? But I understand that it's mental capacity many times. And a lot of people would want to say that coming from the black school or the Negro school, as they called it back then, that we weren't prepared. Now, that may be true for some students and some teachers, but I felt like I was. I felt tall. I had some great teachers in the black schools. I could call them, Miss Addie Majors and Miss Otterbeer Roberts and Mr. Otis Carter. But I tell you what, they not only instilled in us the lesson, the facts, the figures, how to do these problems. Mr. Alexander, diagramming sentences and blah, blah, all this. I mean, we did all of that stuff. But I never forget Mr. Otis Carter. He used to have these sayings that were up on the wall, and it would say, progress is made by correcting mistakes over and over again. Opportunity only favors the prepared mind. Miss Otterbeer Roberts in the 5th grade.
Wow.
We had to learn scripture. Now, you can't teach scripture in school now, they throw you out of there. But we learned the 12th chapter of Ecclesiastes. Remember thy Creator in the days of thy youth while the evil days come nigh, or the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I will have no pleasure in thee, while the sun, stars, moon, we learned that whole chapter of Ecclesiastes.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
she told us what is when the cymbals shall cease, it means you're losing your hearings. When the, and
Yeah.
she taught us all of that. But she also taught us stuff like, you're the one that has to decide whether you do it or toss it aside. You are the one who has to decide whether you lead or linger behind, whether you strive for the good that's afar. Be content just to stay where you are.
Wow.
Take it or leave it. There's something to do. Just think it over. It's all up to you. And we used to have to repeat those poems in her class, and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
Every day
Yeah.
that she, but let me tell you something, I learned it.
Yeah.
And I have never forgotten. That's 5th grade.
Yeah.
That was 5th grade.
Yes. Yeah.
They did indelible marks on my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when I went over there, I thought like, it wasn't nothing I couldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I studied,
Yeah.
but I could do it.
Yeah. And that focus, that attitude, that the desire to see it through. I mean, that's so encouraging, because that's real adversity. I mean, we stub our toe, our iPhones die, and we're just like, my life is over.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
no, let me let me share with you what it looks like to really have some challenges and some adversity and
Yeah.
things like that. And,
Well, they said failure is a part of life. And it's not that you fail.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you get up.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree with that.
I've had some down times in my life. Everything hadn't been perfect, but I've always mulled through it and said, okay, now, Tiena, what you going to do? Got to get up.
Yeah. Yeah. Give us an example of something like that where you feel like, okay, yep, I'm either misstep or I failed completely or whatever, and just learn from that
Well,
experience.
even at Mercer, when I went to Mercer, now, it was hard. Chemistry was hard. It
Okay.
was harder than what I had in.
So this is after Americus, you graduate, you go straight into Mercer,
Mm-hmm.
correct? Okay. All right.
And I remember failing some tests. And I said, oh, no, I got to come out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go get help. But see, that's when you learn, what do you do?
Come on.
So I went and got some tutoring.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I needed to do. I didn't step back and just wallow in my whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of damaged my whatever living facade a little bit because I thought I was like kingpin. But then I came back up,
Yeah.
did what I was supposed to do, and moved on. There have been some times in my career in pharmacy. I was director of pharmacy. I went into a hospital with a all-white medical staff.
Okay.
And it was, if it weren't for the administrator, Charlie Hall, who saw in me something to ask me to take that job acting when he lost his director, and then I was doing it so well that he told me, as far as I'm concerned, my diamond's on Tiena Fletcher.
Wow.
And at that time, I wasn't a Fletcher, I was a Boykin, but
Yeah.
but he put his time, and there were white doctors that tried to get me fired for one reason or another. But I always knew that if I kept my faith in God, and I knew my law, pharmacy law,
Yep.
I knew you got to know your trade.
Yeah.
If you're out there in a world like that, in a position like that where you have a lot of opposition, you need to know your craft. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that, I used to go to sleep every night on something in pharmacy, whatever. I knew my craft. And anytime that they came up for me, I had an answer for it.
Yes.
But there were a couple of times when I thought I was dead in the water and I was down. Mm-hmm. Came out fighting.
I love it.
I had to go home and whatever. A couple of times I had to call on, a lot of times you hear that it's not what you know, who you know. I knew a couple of the people that were on the boards of the hospital, and I explained my position to them. Mm-hmm. When they came out of that board meeting, when they were supposed to release me, mm-hmm. I was not fired.
Wow. Wow.
But like I said, and I was down. Mm-hmm. But you just it's how you get up. It's what you do, how you strategize.
Yes.
And what you do to keep yourself going.
Yes. And in many ways, you say, be an expert at your craft. Do the work and do it better than anyone else.
That's right.
And it's hard to say no to that.
That's right.
Because, we live in a society where if you're good at what you do, people are going to recognize it.
That's right.
And you had some adversity even against that. Like, I'm doing the job, I'm doing it better. And yet, it's because of what I look like, or it's, because someone doesn't like me. And yet your performance kept showing itself to be true. And I think that's so key is as we fight for some of these social things and we want to see, people see it in a way, a good perspective, you keep working hard and you keep being the best. And it's hard to say no to that.
They have to respect that. I tell you, and on the other hand, though, if you're wrong, being willing to stand up and say, hey, I made a mistake. It's such and such and such and such, and do that. But I will tell you, being good at what you do, that goes. And I tell you, by the time I had stayed there, I'd been at the hospital, many years, maybe 20 years or whatever. I can remember one of my supervisors telling me, said, Tiena, I was at a meeting and we was talking about something about a pharmaceutical, I don't know, something about pharmacy. And one of the doctors said, go ask Tiena. At that point, I knew they had respect for what I felt and what I had to say.
That's amazing.
When I said that, they said, go ask Tiena. And they did come and ask me. And we worked on the problem together.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because I think, again, I'm thinking about even my age, my generation, and younger generations, this idea of, I want respect, right? I just want general respect, and we should obviously do that.
Yes.
But there's parts of it that's like, well, I'm not willing to show you what I can do unless I get it, and yet you're here going, it may have taken months, years, but that is genuine. It wasn't gifted to you because they think that you deserve it. It's gifted to you because you do deserve it.
That's
and you knew day one they didn't.
They didn't.
But that's genuine. That's authentic. And that actually changes people's hearts more than anything else. I mean, I talk a lot about, we want to change laws, and laws are good to change, but laws will never change people's hearts.
That's right.
And that's why the Bible always constantly talks about the heart.
That's right.
Because they had all the laws, but they didn't want to follow them because their heart wasn't attuned to the things that God wanted them to do. So they would do this, they throughout the whole Bible, right? People are doing this. And so we can change laws, and those are good things. But really, if we want to see a society, we want to see good neighbors, we have to get to the heart. And those are heart changes. That's not just, well, someone's new here and they look like this, and so we need to do these things. It's like, no, that person knows what they're doing.
Right.
And that's a beautiful picture. And those are some of those progresses that we're talking about, is those things are genuine. And you had to fight for those things.
That's right.
But you fought with your performance, you fought with your character, humility. As a part of that, hey, I did it wrong. You may not want to admit that because you just only want people to see your good.
Your good side, but you got to be able to say it.
That's huge.
Or go back and tell somebody, I see your perspective now. I didn't going into this, but we've talked.
Yeah.
And I see you. I have a speech that I do and whatever, and I tell people, and they say, well, what do you want out of? I say, I want you to see me. Mm-hmm. See me.
Yeah.
Not the clothes, color of my skin. See me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. That's wonderful.
I tell you.
Is there... go ahead. You're about to say something.
I was going to say, and I didn't talk about the fact that I'm treasurer for the something kind of movement. Remember,
yeah,
I am the financial treasurer for them. I call down all the money from the federal government to pay the contractors and to do this. Cause I'm a finance person. Budget and finance. Right. That's my expertise. And I love it. And I just love the idea of what we're doing, trying to redo that hospital.
Yeah, yes.
It is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be great in this community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard for the last few years that you guys gotten some grants that have come through. You've helped with that. That's
$1.5 million worth of grants, which is not going to be enough to redo it. But more than anything, that process has taught me patience. I mean, real patience. Because when you get money from the federal government and they have to approve everything that you're going to do with people that you hire, it's a long process. But it's going to be a beautiful a sight to behold. It's going to be added value for this community. And I'm just looking forward to the day when that project comes to fruition. And it is done. Just like I am about the Pearlie Brown.
Oh my goodness.
Memorial.
So both of us went to the groundbreaking ceremony at Pearlie Brown last week and at the park that's coming. And that was just an amazing time. Share a little bit of your experience just being there, seeing this take place.
It was tremendous for me because I had never realized exactly where it was going to be. I've forgotten a lot of America's landscape. Even though I grew up here, I left when I was 18 going off to Mercer, and I never really came back here for any length of time other than to visit my parents and my family or whatever. And but seeing what the drawings of what they anticipate it to look like. It was to me, I just thought it was just fantastic. But I'm gonna tell you, I shared a little bit about this earlier with you. I was just so amazed at the fellowship that occurred there with people from all walks of life in Americus. And I sat back and just watched it. And I know that the city council was, was diverse and some of the other boards and whatever. But a lot of times people just, even though they're on these boards, they don't get to know each other and they just go back home into their own little separate silos. And I know they talk about city business or Board of Education in schools or whatever, but venues like we just had or that Pearlie Brown events that you have like that, people were talking. They were just talking. And when you get to know somebody, number one, it's hard to be ugly to them. It's hard to be, a lot of things. I mean, really get to know them. Then you can start chomping at the bits with hard issues.
That's right.
We may be diverse, whereas we may come from different backgrounds. We now can say, well, what do you think about teaching Black history in school? I don't like to call it the critical race theory. I don't like that word. But the history about people. What do you think? Why don't you think it ought to be? And that sort of thing. So and then you can solve the issues in your community then.
That's right. That local part that we were talking about earlier.
Especially when we understand each other.
Yes, that's huge. Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Like I said, coming in as just a new citizen here in the county, in the city, and just seeing, the family get together and get excited about their, their father or grandfather being a part of this community. Where again, he wasn't really received well in, for the community and the white community here, and yet now he has this park dedicated to him, and people get to walk every day, and people get to experience that. And there's going to be, music and fun there, and just like, wow, what if we would have had this 50, 60 years ago? But we get to experience it now. And, I bought a brick for our names. And so my children and my name will be there. And so my kids, obviously, hopefully 40, 50 years from now will show their kids, but that's what you're talking about. Even with the hospital, the idea is there were some cathedral, some churches that were built, in different parts of the world. But some of these churches were so large, and the project was so big that it took several different generations to finish the build. And so that builder or the painter would start something knowing that they would not be there to finish it.
Wow.
But it is finished. And I think about that's what you're saying is like, it's taking several years for this museum to take place, but it will be here after you're gone.
That's right.
And so you're starting it, and you're hoping to get all the way through.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're saying, here, take
That's
this
right.
on.
Take it
so that
on.
it can be here for 50, 60, 150, years from now. So those things are beautiful and wonderful. So thank you for doing that. I want to ask you this. It seems, again, I mean, I'm hearing your story, and though you're 12, 13, 14 years old during some of this, I'm just encouraged by the amount of values that were poured into you at a young age, again, from your family, from your church, from the school.
Yes.
What is there anything that you know now that you kind of wish that you would have known then at that time? And if so, what would that be?
This too will pass. That
Yeah.
it all has is relevant. It's all has its place in history. It all is for the good of the movement
Yeah.
and for our people.
Yeah.
And that,
Did you ever think it was going to get this far? Like in your mind?
no, I don't know why I just didn't.
Yeah.
Because things all
Where
the
did you
years
think
I
it
was
was gonna
growing
end
up
up?
was the same. I mean, we went to the back doors. We went to the back of the Martin Theater. We went to the back here. They closed the drugstore down because they weren't going to serve us, let the blacks or Negroes sit at the fountain. And it repeatedly, you just hear these stories and the killings that that occurred, and you hear about some of the people here that were beaten and had to go to hospitals in Atlanta in order to escape, their lives being taken. And I just knew it.
So what in your mind on a very functional level did you feel like this is our best case scenario? What would that have been?
To be honest, a best case scenario in my mind of what would happen is that segregation was just going to be here and we wouldn't get total integration like we do now, now.
Yeah.
Because, we can go in a place that's open and free. Of course, you start dealing with, and there's a period of time, and still at some point now, it's getting better and getting better. You start getting institutional racism rather than physical buildings you can't go in. It's kind of like it's all institutionalized, or the glass ceilings, or the this and that, where you can only go so high, and you train a lot of people during your life to do a job, and then they rise up and go on to be whatever. And so some of that is is being recognized now and coming to pass. But I never thought that in my lifetime I would see where we are now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And that's, like I said, I mean, I'm 37 years old. And so I think, and I came from Germany. My family's from the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. And so, coming from a military perspective, it was very much like, if you're in the military, white, black, red, we're all military. You're in the Army. That's who you are. That's kind of your family, your identity. So coming down here and having to hear the history it's painful. This really happened. This is really where we were. But then again, I mean, I'm seeing some of the students that are coming out now. There's other issues, right? There's other challenges now. But I'm saying, the fact that they don't have to experience those things to that degree of like those physical things every day. I mean, you can get on the internet, and the internet's evil and mean, and people can beat people up for no reason because they're just on their computers. But I will say, I mean, from what I've heard to where we are now, I'm so thankful for that.
I am too.
So let's kind of step in. We talked a little bit about the park and the hospital. The historic colored hospital and how it's being changed into a museum. That's kind of one of the projects that's on there too. But let's say next 5-10 years, including those, what are some things that you hope for a city like Americus, where you grew up, you experienced some of these historic things, but at the same time, the progression of that. What are some things that you hope for Americus in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I hope that Americans would stay on the being focused and stay on the trail that they're on. I really think. I like I say, I've been amazed at what I've seen just recently, because I've started opening my eyes and just looking around and say, "Oh, this is beautiful." I hope that people vote for people because of not who they are, but who can really get the job done. Who has the people that have a mindset to want the town to progress and, be all that it can be. I hope that real conversations can be had.
Yeah.
With leadership, one board to the next, just with the people in general.
Yeah. Now, when you say real conversations, you were kind of referring to that a little bit earlier, just in the podcast right there, where you were just describing, hey, what are we going to do with Black history? Like, let's have some of those.
And what are we going to do with our
police
department?
What
are we going to do with, I don't believe in defunding the police. I don't think anybody really does.
Yeah.
All they was trying to say is we need to make some room in there for counselors and people to help people with mental health issues and that sort of thing. Whereas you may not understand it, they may be able to come in and diffuse a situation better than you can just because of their education. Recognize that these people fundamentally, can help out. What are we going to do about, all of these things, bring it down to a community level.
Yeah.
And look at your community.
Yeah.
And say what is best for us to do. Just because New York need to do this doesn't mean that Americans need to do it.
Yeah, and that's hard for people because they'll see something like on the internet, a story that's a genuine story that's real, that's out there, but it's not impacting Americus in the way that it's impacting these other places. And again, the local aspect of that is what does our city need? What are the real issues here? There might be some generalities, but you can get very specific when it comes to that because you can call the people, you can talk to them, you can have conversations with them. And I agree with that 100%, that this community has. It's continuing to open as I'm coming in and getting to hear people's stories. People feel a sense of there's some real good changes that are happening in America. Like it just feels that way. So we just need to continue to ride that wave. And again, part of that wave started with you, being available, being ready, going through those very difficult times to set people like us up to say, hey, it's possible. And it doesn't, one bad thing or one difficult thing or one challenge should not stop from what we're doing, in that way. So thank you so much for that. And I look forward to continuing to having conversations like this. And again, as we build friendships and trusts, with others, we get to have deeper conversations, because
and recognize the differences and that we're not going to always agree.
Yeah.
But we can solve things better as we come to the table and have these conversations. It may be that, I can go along and give this much.
Yeah.
Can you give this much until we get to a point, and then maybe later on we can move the ball on down the road just a little further.
Yeah.
But it takes that kind of talking and working together to get these things done.
Yeah. So what are some ingredients to a healthy relationship that would cause people, because there is truth to people really struggle when there's disagreements or when there's not understanding, right? They want to start pushing their points and say, wait. So what are some healthy ingredients for a good conversation that there are going to be differences and yet there can be some compromise to work together?
Right. Number one, you have to start with the basis of truth and fact.
Yeah.
You may, like we talked before, everything that you read and you're told is not necessarily true. So you have to make sure that you do that. And then you have to trust one another. That not trust in the fact that you're going to do everything I say or you're going to believe everything I believe or you're going to whatever, but that we can have this honest conversation,
Yeah.
and that you will be truly honest about the way you feel and what you think can be done. And then when we are coming to a point where we need to get something done, be willing to compromise.
Yeah.
Everybody's not going to get everything they want all the time. We have to learn to compromise. Some people like if I don't get what I want, I take my marbles and I go home.
Yeah.
That attitude.
Yeah.
All right, we can't do that. And not effectively live together and get things done in our community. We can't do that.
Yeah,
We got to stay at the table.
That's good. Yeah.
Stay there.
Yeah. So the goal is, hey, no matter what happens, let's make sure we stay at the table.
That's right. Stay there.
Now, here we go. And then you walk through that, like you said, that truth, that trust, and that willingness to compromise. Those are beautiful. I mean, those are key. And I would agree with all of those things. And then a desire to learn, right? I mean, that's
right.
And a humility to say, maybe I don't fully understand. I'm coming in with a certain perspective, but maybe there's something that I just did not understand or couldn't see through that. And I think those are really, really key to any healthy relationship.
And a lot of times, excuse me, I don't mean, it's the choice of words you use.
That's good.
People don't understand sometimes. You have to look at the language that you use that may be offensive or not
Yeah.
to someone else.
Yeah.
And usually when I'm talking to someone, I try to, get the tone and get the mood. And if they're a little bit more abrupt, I say, wait a minute, let's settle down now. Let's just really talk about this.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to do those type of things,
Yes. Yep.
it may be
Makes
too
it very
much.
difficult. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Tiena. I've got a couple really quick rapid fire questions as we kind of close up a little bit of our time together. So these questions just really, they're 30-second answers just to get a chance to know you a little bit better as a person. So I'm going to ask you a few of these as we're kind of landing a plane a little bit. But here goes a good question. This might take more of a minute, but what are some things that maybe people are most likely to misunderstand about you? What is something or one thing people most likely misunderstand about you?
I am very passionate about things that I truly believe in.
Yeah.
And they may think I'm getting, and I don't mind people telling me,
Yeah.
take it down a notch. But I can really get to going and whatever. And like I said, I don't mind, because then I catch myself and say, Tiena, you need to take it down a notch.
That's right.
So they might misunderstand my intentions when I'm talking.
Yeah.
Because I can, I when I feel something, I'm very passionate about it.
Yeah, you're ready.
I'm ready to fire it out there and get it out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, that's good. That's good. Okay. All right. So some of these are a little bit more lighthearted, and that's good too. But let me ask you, if you could instantly become an expert in something right now, what would that be? To add to your repertoire already of amazing things that you already know and do.
Speed read.
Speed read. Ooh, that would be.
I read, and I read fairly good, but be able to, how some people go through and read a book in a day. I can't do that.
Yeah, I can't do it either.
So if I could speed read, that's something I want to do.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. Let me ask you this. If you could be on a reality TV show, which one would you choose and why?
I don't like reality shows.
Okay, all right. Do you watch TV?
I really don't. I watch TV.
Okay. What kind of TV shows you watch? Let me ask you that. That will be...
NCIS.
Okay. Nice.
I got to think.
So
now.
those crime. So you're in pharmacy, so there's got to be scenes you're like, that would never happen.
I always say that.
That would never
happen. Because when they go and spray all those, and they never get shot,
Yeah, yeah,
I've been
absolutely.
going to
Yeah.
now. You know that's unreal. This is only on
Absolutely.
TV.
Yep.
But I
Yep.
watch it. You know,
Yep.
I watch it more for the storyline
Yeah, absolutely.
and what's happening. You know, doing
Yeah.
the story. And I like what's the story that come on Friday night? The cop with his family. I like that one. It's a police story, but they usually have 3 different things going on.
Okay,
One
yeah,
with
and
the
you're following
dad.
all the stories.
And
Okay.
I'm following, and by the end of the TV show, everybody has somewhat of a resolution
Okay, yeah,
to
that's
what
great.
is going on.
That's great.
And I like that kind of thing. That it's interesting.
Yeah, my wife worked in the medical field. She worked in the hospitals, and she would always say things like, if that person had that type of accident or had that happen to them, they would not be strapped in this, or they would not be laying like that, or they wouldn't need this, you know.
Oh, they can get blown.
Always very
Yeah.
technical of like,
Yeah.
why would they do that? You know,
They can
so-
get blown up, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden they up running around a building, and you go,
Yeah, no,
oh.
no, absolutely.
But anyway,
Okay, if you were to write your first book, what title would you give that book, do you think?
oh, I have thought about that over and over again. And one of the titles I kind of several years ago thought about was Growing Up Black. Then I said, nah, I don't want to do that. But many times people write a book and then they go back and then put a title to it.
Yeah, okay.
Based on some chapter or whatever that had a line or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm almost thinking about speaking the book, recording it. If I
Yeah.
can find me a recorder to just let me just talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just hadn't gotten there yet.
Okay. If you could eliminate one thing from your daily routine, what would that be?
Cooking.
Cooking?
I
You don't
hate
like
it.
cooking?
I like cooking for a special occasion.
Okay.
For special people, then I want to
Okay.
put the dog on.
Yeah.
But just,
What's your favorite meal that you cook that you're just like, this is my go-to?
well, broccoli casseroles, sweet
Nice.
potato souffle, roasted turkey or hen.
Yeah.
And the macaroni and cheese. That's
Yeah, that's solid.
look that. But
Those are solid.
hey, not necessarily that healthy, but
Yeah. But they'll feed
it's
some family.
solid, yeah.
Okay. We talked a little bit about going to Germany, but if there's one place that you could go in the world, where would it be?
Probably Italy.
Okay. Why? Why Italy?
The historic cathedrals
Mm-hmm.
and Rome. I've always, in pictures and books and,
Yeah.
and whenever they are portrayed in a picture or whatever, you always see that historical side of
Yeah.
those places. And I just think it would be fascinating.
Yes. Yes. Those buildings are very old, very
Old,
historic, and
old.
amazing. And absolutely. Do you have a favorite sport that you watch, or we didn't really talk about growing up and playing sports or anything, or did you? You don't do any of that?
We didn't play sport.
That's okay.
And I don't really watch sport. My husband likes golf. But,
Okay.
if I had to watch a sport, baseball is too slow, even though they changed some of the rules of speed it up. Football is a little faster, but it's too brutal. They knock each other around a bit.
Yeah.
Basketball probably would be, because it's
That's
fast.
fast
It's
and
quick. That's right.
And there you can't foul anybody.
That's
You
right.
got it. So that's a good sport. All right, last one. Do you have a favorite song or genre of music that you love? Like what's playing in your car right now? If you would just crank it up.
On the Wings of a Dove.
Okay. By, do you know who that's by? I will look it up. I will look it up. So Well, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. Your story, again, is inspirational to me. I'm so glad I get to just sit down and talk with you about it and hear a little bit more, get a chance to see it, just from person to person. I mean, I could read a story, but just sitting down, looking each other in the eyes and just seeing the genuineness, your love for people, your love for what you do, and the impact that you've made. So thank you so much for doing that. And
I've enjoyed it.
So, well, listen, we're going to be thinking about you. We're going to be praying for you as you continue to live life in Perry. Enjoy those things. Enjoy your family. And hopefully, if there's something else that we get a chance to come back to and have you back on the podcast for a particular story or something like that. Maybe you write your first book. We'd love to have you on the podcast to talk about that. So thank you so much, Tiena.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.